Welcome back, everyone, to the Symposium on Multi-Stakeholders Engagement in Forest Protected Area Governance for Conservation and Livelihoods. We are now in session 6, where we will talk about empowerment of gender and indigenous communities in forest protected areas management. Community-based forest protected areas management increases the capability of women and indigenous peoples in the management of resources. They are empowered to make management decisions in collaboration with other stakeholders, and they play an important role in sustainability of resources. Experts in this session will showcase some stories about this topic from developing countries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, please note that there will be a live Q&A segment at the end of the session. So kindly pose your questions on the platform, and our speakers will try to answer all of them if time permits. You will see a question box on the platform, and if you don't see them, don't worry, just refresh the page and it shall pop up. Now, moderating this session, we are privileged to have our chairperson here, Dr. Chong Julian. She is the Associate Professor of Faculty of Science and Marine Environment at University Malaysia, Terengganu. She specializes in zoology, wildlife management, and conservation biology with research interests on fauna, which include the critically endangered Sunda pangolin, on aspects of their ecology, biology, and populations in order to better understand the intricate interactions between organisms and their ecosystem to ensure their existence as heritage for future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Chong Julian. Take it away, Dr. Chong.
Thank you, Vanessa, for that great introduction section. So today I will be the chairperson to chair session 6, which is empowerment of gender and indigenous communities in forest protected areas management. So for today, we are going to have a few speakers with us. So let's not waste too much of time. We shall start with the first speaker itself, who is Mr. Muhammad Hafiz Sulaiman, who is currently a PhD candidate under the Faculty of Science and Marine Environment at University Malaysia Terengganu. Currently, his research area is environmental science, majoring in biodiversity and conservation. So, Mr. Hafiz, the floor is yours. You may begin now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon. I'm Muhammad Hafiz bin Sulaiman from University Malaysia Terengganu. So today, I will present a part of my study entitled Empowering the Orang Asli, a New Perspective for the Malayan Pangolin Conservation in Malaysia. So as you can see in my background, that is the pangolin. In Malaysia, we call it tenggiling. Okay, around the world, we have 8 species of pangolin, and in Malaysia, we only have 1 species. That is the Malayan pangolin or Sunda pangolin. Okay, this species was declared as critically endangered in 2014 because their population is decreasing because of poaching and habitat loss. So this species face overpoaching because of their high price on their meats and scales in the international market because of the demand of the traditional Chinese medicine and exotic food. So in Malaysia, the poacher is from a foreigner and also locals. Okay, for locals, we have 2 categories here. First is passive and the second one is active poachers. So active poachers is Orang Asli. So that's why in this study, Orang Asli become our group of interest. So why Orang Asli are involved? So since modernization hits Malaysia, Orang Asli is still living in poverty. Okay, according to the Department of Orang Asli and Development, in 2019, more than 33% of Orang Asli still living in poverty. And because of that, they become poachers, active poachers. And that's why they become poachers and to generate income. Okay, so to curb this problem, the government have implemented several projects or programs. First, economic development program that focus on sources of income, social development program that focus on improving quality of life, and structured placement program that focus on relocation or combining scattered small villages. However, in this study, we only focus on economic development program or EDP. So in this study, we want to look on to determine the type and the effectiveness of the EDP that have been implemented by the government to improve the well-being of the orang asli. Second, we want to look at investigate the participation of the orang asli community in EDP and its effect on conservation of the pangolin. And the last one, we want to look at the factors that influence the orang asli to either continue or stop poaching the pangolins. Okay, this is our conceptual framework of the study, where the pangolin become the core subject here. However, we didn't touch directly on this core subject, and we only focus on the three component here, which is the government, universities, and the orang asli. Okay, in this study, we use mixed mode research design, where we combine quantitative and qualitative research method, where the primary data was obtained through survey and observation. Okay, this study was conducted at Kampung Sungai Pergam and Kampung Sungai Berwa, both village located in Terengganu. And for observation, we want to look at the economic activities, their management, and the equipment they use. Okay, this is Kampung Sungai Berwa and this is Kampung Sungai Pergam. Okay, this is the result. Before I start, I want to tell you that please bear in mind that the percentage presented here is the percentage with the highest value only. So for demography, majority of my respondents were from 31 to 40 years old. Majority were women and smart breed, from smart breed tribes. Okay, majority were married and not attending schools. Okay, majority was self-employed and majority were Muslim. Okay, for income per day, they usually generate Malaysia ringgit 20 and below. All of them were Malaysian and majority of them from Terengganu. Okay, we look to their participation on the EDP. So majority of them knew about the EDP and have been participated in the programs. And the most participated programs was rubber plantation course. However, majority of them not sure about how many times the EDP was repeated in a year. Next, the perception of orang asli on the EDP. Majority of them, they said that they attend the EDP by their own will and they will attend the programs again. Majority of them said that the EDP is beneficial and they will encourage their family and friends to attend the programs. Okay, majority also agree that after attending the EDP, their income increased and the EDP meets participants' interests and the facilities provided in their village are enough for them to continue the programs by their own. Okay, for their opinion on the EDP, they strongly agree and also disagree to not attend the EDP because have no benefit. A majority of them disagree that the EDP will not increase their income and the programs cannot guarantee their children's future. Majority of them also strongly disagree that poaching will produce higher income than the EDP. And they also strongly agree and also agree that the equipment and budget for the EDP is not enough in the long run. And not many villages have an interest to attend the programs. So about the optional, majority of them were satisfied with the choice of the EDP that have been implemented by the government. However, they said the most factors that challenged for them to participate in the EDP because they are too busy. Okay, next about the effect of the EDP on their well-being and also on the pangolin conservation. The majority of them still carry on what they have learned from the EDP and they had several sources of income. Unfortunately, majority of them still poaching the wildlife, including the pangolins, and they also believe the EDP cannot stop pangolin poaching. So what is the factors for orang asli to stop poaching? So majority of them agreed they will stop poaching if the pangolin price in the market is cheaper and no buyer. They also will stop poaching if they have fixed income and job. And they also will stop poaching if the penalties is severe and the enforcer caught them. Okay, this is the factors for orang asli to continue poaching. Majority of them said money is the key point here, and also majority of them strongly disagree if poachers are not afraid being caught, and they will to encourage new generations who have a job to poach the pangolins, and caught pangolins will be sold and not eaten if the price is high. Majority of them also agree to stop poaching the pangolin if the price, they will continue to poaching other wildlife if pangolins become extinct and hunting is tradition that must be carried on. Okay, majority of them also agree that the pangolin almost extinct not because of poaching but because of logging or deforestation, and no legal action in Malaysia can prevent the orang asli from poaching the pangolin. So for objective 1 discussion, this is the types of the EDP that have been identified, and all of them is in line with the government program except for livestock. However, new EDP project will be established in Kampung Sungai Program, which is a fish farming. Okay, for the effectiveness, majority give positive feedback and the EDP effectively being implemented in the village. However, my observation show different situation. This is the situation. Okay, even though both have similar EDP, which is oil palm plantation, however, the management in Kampung Sungai Beruah was conducted by individuals as compared to Kampung Sungai Program, where cooperative and Velcro Berhad manage the oil palm. There is no leadership in Kampung Sungai Beruah. However, in Kampung Sungai Program, the leadership to manage the oil palm was done by Velcro manager, village chairman, and also Tok Batin. For the method, at Kampung Sungai Beruah, it was inconsistent. They have no fixed work schedule, no fertilization or weed control schedule. However, in Kampung Sungai Program, it was standardized. Everything is scheduled, and they must follow the schedule. Okay, for the equipment in Kampung Sungai Beruah, they use conventional equipment. Okay, if you can see here, they use this rope to climb the oil palm trees, and then they use this oil palm harvesting shovel to cut the fronds or the oil palm bunches. Okay, as compared to the Kampung Sungai Program, they use advance to help during their work. For example, here they use tractor, and of course, and because of that, their income for Kampung Sungai Beruah is unstable. But Kampung Sungai Program is stable because each month they will get dividend. Okay, for objective 2. The knowledge about the existence of EDP is well known and well accepted by the orang asli community. This is proven by the higher number of participation and majority of them attending plantation course. However, time restriction may influence orang asli participation. The acceptance level of rubber plantation among orang asli was higher than other EDP is due to historical and synchronic aspects. So how about the effect? Okay, although the EDP had opened up for job and income opportunities, but it can stop orang asli from poaching. This is influenced by the orang asli tradition because of the income, accountability, and their rights. For objective 3, okay, orang asli will continue poaching because of income, tradition, rights, and accountability, and they will stop poaching if the pangolin's value in markets drop, no buyer, they have stable income, and regulations are strict. So we can say that the chances for orang asli community to stop poaching in the near future is very slim. However, it is not impossible. Why? First, orang asli still largely depending on forest product. Second, they believe that they have the rights to hunt the wildlife. Third, they believe that the plummeting or decreasing of the pangolin population is because of deforestation, not because of poaching. And the last one, even though the pangolin have no value in the market, however, orang asli will continue their hunting activities as a tradition and hobby. So as conclusion, there were 11 types of EDP that had been implemented and the programs were conducted effectively. Participation of orang asli on EDP was positive, yet the effect of the programs towards pangolin conservation was somewhat minimal. Orang asli will continue poaching for the time being, but if certain conditions are fulfilled, poaching activities can be controlled and reduced. Okay, sampling sites focus analysis will be conducted to specifically reveal the real situation that happened at different sampling sites, and in this case, at Kampung Sungai Bro and Kampung Sungai Perkam. So although the findings showed there is limited impact of implementation of EDP on orang asli poaching activities, yet we cannot stop to pursue the main goal, which is to save the pangolin from extinction. So synergist efforts from the government, NGOs, industry players, academicians, and other stakeholders must be well constructed to ensure each responsibility are effectively carried on to empower orang asli community well-being for a betterment of future of Malaysian wildlife. So I want to like to thank the Ministry of Higher Education of Malaysia for the funding, the Department of Orang Asli Development for the permit, University of Malaysia Terengganu for the research ethics provider and also logistic provided, and to all those directly or indirectly involved in this study. This is my references. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
All right, very informative talk just now from Mr. Muhammad Hafiz. So I open the floor for questions. If there's any questions coming from the audience. Okay, while we're waiting for questions from the audience, for Mr. Muhammad Hafiz, I have a few questions. So say if the EDP or other government programs are successful to uplift the orang asli socio-economic, what is the possibility of the traditional way of living of the orang asli will change? Is it that this hunting and also nature-related knowledge, which is currently owned by the orang asli community, will decline or disappear over time? In that case, is there actually a possible way to upgrade their socio-economic life, but at the same time preserve what they know?
Okay, thank you for the question. Actually, this is one of the dilemmas faced by those who involved to help improving orang asli socio-economic, especially the government policymaker, researcher, NGOs, and also the orang asli themselves. So, because if their socio-economic improve, the time for them to hunt or harvest forest products will definitely decrease. Maybe in one or two generations, there may be no more orang asli practicing the traditional lifestyle because they are busy working. So, in my opinion, we can try to introduce tourism-based industry to the orang asli community. For example, we can introduce the concept of cultural village or ecotourism village, where majority of the villagers involved in the project, okay, they have orang asli have a unique houses. They live near forest, lakes, waterfalls, and rivers. Okay, this is a very interesting places for tourists to visit. Okay, orang asli also have a vast knowledge of plants and animals. They have their own cultural arts such as dancing, food, handicraft, and clothing. So I think we should highlight such things. So it is a win-win situation. Their life will be improved, yet their tradition and knowledge can be preserved. So, what was
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Hafiz. Over at the chat, we have two questions for you. So one comes from one Rodia. I'll read out the question in case if you can't see them. Despite providing a source of income to the indigenous people via oil palm plantation, do you think this practice can increase pangolin population, taking into account the loss of forest to oil palm plantation? Okay.
Okay.
The next question will come from Kamal. In a while, I'll read it out to you.
Okay. For the first question, we must understand the ecology of the ecology and the behavior of the pangolin. Okay, pangolin is one of the animals that have what we call they can adapt high adaptability. Okay, highest adaptability. They can adapt to any environment as long as there is no poachers. Okay, so the pangolin will survive. The population will be stable. Okay, because they eat ants and termites. And fortunately, at the oil palm plantation, we have many ants and termites. So that is my question. So from Mr. Kamal.
Mr. Hafiz, I have to interrupt you. We are kind of running short of time. So I think we will take the questions later on at the end of the session. Yeah? All right.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Mr. Hafiz.
Okay.
So for the next speaker, we have Miss Akila Mukhtar, who is currently taking her PhD in ecology at University Putra, Malaysia, with her first degree in Bachelor of Environment Science and Technology and Masters in Environmental Biology. So her current expertise is in ecotoxicology, stable isotope ecology, and ecology. So Miss Akila, if you're ready, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon everyone. Thank you to Dr. Chong. Today, I will present about mangrove mudflat ecosystem at Sungai Buloh, Selangor impacting from anthropogenic event, decade crisis. Okay, for the introduction, mangrove intertidal mudflat is a prominent interlinked tropical ecosystem that is very important to conserve and protect a large number of flora and fauna in this ecosystem. Sungai Buloh estuary, known as one of important birds and also biodiversity, they are located along the north central Selangor coast. Sungai Buloh has been recognized as a site for migratory shorebird foraging area and also famous with cockle cultivation activities. However, this ecosystem has been threatened by the presence of physical and chemical pollution, which has been observed and measured. Okay, for the firstly that I mentioned before, this area has been treated by the physical pollution, which is during the low tide, we can see many debris are found scattered on the sediment among mangrove trees and mudflat. And this plastic litter has high potential in disturbing the growth of mangrove trees. The mangrove roots which covered with plastic are stress shown to the root growth response. And the plastic also can become the micro-sized plastic will be moved along the mangrove food web structure from the lower consumer to the top consumer by having the dietary uptake. Okay, during the cockle harvesting activity at Sungai Buloh, almost 90% of it is the plastic debris compared to the cockle itself. This situation occur due to the plastic debris can cause the cockle production by covering the surface of muddy area and also alter the sediment structure at the same time can reduce the number of bentos community on the sediment. Due to this scenario, the cocker is said to be harvested at an early age, which is the much smaller size of cocker will be collected compared to the mature one. Normally, the fishermen will collect the cocker within 12 to 18 months. So the size is within 4.5 centimeter to 5 centimeter, which is quite big when we collect it. Next one, after the physical pollutant, we refer to the chemical pollutant that has been detected in this area. All of us know that sediment is the sink bag of all pollutants. Previous study has found several chemical pollutant in this area. For example, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, which is PAH, which is come from the incomplete combustion of organic material. Also heavy metal from industry activities, and also biocide, also from the shipping and agriculture activities that has been conducted in this area. Okay, previous study by Basadegi et al. 2011 has detected the presence of PAH both in cocker and also in the sediment. However, the cancer risk criterion indicate that eating the collected cocker in this area is not safe. Okay. Next, for the heavy metal, for example, cobalt, zinc, lead, vanadium, and chromium, which is result from the industry activities, found to be increased from the upstream to the downstream of the Sungai Buloh River. Next one is for biocide. For example, Igaro 1051, Duron, T4-dichloroanilate, and chlorothalonil also has been detected in the cocker and also sediment. However, the concentration of biocide in sediment in this area has exceeded the limit, which can cause severe ecotoxic effect on the marine organism. Both of the physical pollutant and also chemical pollutant in this area can lower down the quality of river in this area. The level of pollutant was determined to the its water quality index WQI by referring to the guideline from the National Water Quality Formulation NWQM. For your information, in this area, about 2,000 and hundreds number of industry located along the Sungai Buloh River, and about 4,000 kilograms of waste assimilated to total suspended solid has been diluted each day, and according to the Department of Environment, about 3,700 of BOD and 11,000 of COD has been detected every single day. So in 2017 and in 2018, due to this situation, Sungai Buloh has been announced as a polluted river based on water quality statute, with BOD has been categorized in class 4. A study conducted recently by Baharudin et al. 2021 also has indicated that Sungai Buloh as a polluted river due to the effluent that has been released into the environment does not follow the required standard. Okay, from the impact of chemical and also physical into the aquaculture, mainly for the coastal cultivated areas in this ecosystem, as you can see in this figure, about in 2018, around 3,000 kilogram ton 3,000 ton of cocker has been collected compared to the previous one, which is in 2014. It's about 10,000 ton of cocker. And if you can see in this statement here, in 2010, it's about 41,000 ton of cocker has been collected. But recently we can see the collected number of cocker has been declined, and this situation made the market price of cocker has increased. I think nowadays, if you go to the market, you can see the price of the cockers nowadays around 10 ringgit per kilogram. Okay, up till now, mangrove forest declined due to the large number of influx and chemical from the anthropogenic activities, include shipping activities, industrial waste, agriculture, aquaculture, and many more. And we expect also a decline in number of marine fish in this ecosystem due to the demolition of their respective nursery. And those chemicals that release into this ecosystem can treat to the marine organism. For example, filter feeders of cockle has high potential to accumulate the toxic chemical in their body and pose highly toxic to the predator or consumer. As a conclusion from my review study, marine debris can be found in large number of stranded at mangrove of Sungai Buloh, and waste from industrial and pond nearby have adjusted the water quality of Sungai Buloh. And then the polluted water with its hard muddy structure is the main reason of immature cockle breeding in Sungai Buloh. And the last, the reduction of number of microbenthes as protein sources for the avian are the source threat for them. As my future suggestion, the government and legal consultant can take an action by having the better land-based plastic waste management and also having the predict monitoring and inspection of industrial waste released into the environment. And as for researcher, we can have the continuous the research in this area by collecting data and also monitoring the impact of physical and chemical polluted that has been occurred in this ecosystem to make sure we can preserve and also we can protect the ecosystem. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Akila. Very interesting. We are jumping from pangolins to mud flats and also to learn a little bit more about plastic in the environment as well. So for questions, we will hold until the final speakers are done. So for the time being, we'll move on to the next speaker for the day, who is Dr. Sharina Abdul Halim. Dr. Sharina is currently based at the Institute for Environment and Development Lestari in University Malaysia Terengganu. She is an environmental sociologist and she is the head for Research Center on Environment, Economics and Social Sustainability Cases in Lestari. Dr. Sharina's research interests include islands and indigenous community development, sustainable livelihood, tourism development and heritage conservation. She is also currently part of the scientific and technical team for Langkawi UNESCO Global Geopark since 2007 and is assigned as one of the lead authors in the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, IPCC. Dr. Sharina, currently the floor is yours. You may begin when you are ready. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you on Kubang Badak Biogeotrail Langkawi UNESCO Global Geopark, an exploratory case study of sustainability in action. I'm Sharina Abdul Halim. I'm representing also together here my team members, Dr. Tana Unjah, Professor Nur Hayati Ahmad, and Professor Emeritus Ibrahim Komo. As an introduction, the current approach to community engagement in sustainable development projects suffer from the use of the same framework that create the problem in the first place. Much of the research looking at the success of community engagement in achieving sustainability outcome is inconclusive. Though there are examples of great success, there are more examples of failure to achieve intended outcomes, resulting in an even greater disadvantage for the most vulnerable communities. Framework structuring this sustainability practice is couched in the language of quantitative performance-based indicators, reporting on the performance in isolated categories. So the shifting towards socio-ecological system view, where community involvement is part of the scoping, development, implementation, and ongoing ownership is critical because community needs to be empowered in order to understand their roles and responsibilities. Kubang Badak Biojo Trail is in Langkawi Island, known as the Island of Legend, situated far northwestern corner of Peninsular Malaysia in the state of Kedah. It is a fishing community in transition where it has been transformed into a rapid mass tourism development since its inception as a duty-free island in 1987. And in 2007, Langkawi was recognized as the first geopark in the Southeast Asia region by UNESCO, making it the 52nd member in the world. It has approximately 100,000 population over an area of 478 kilometers squared. Langkawi is blessed with outstanding universal value of geological formation, biodiversity, and richness of cultures. Rocks from the oldest continent where geological wonder and legend meet. In Langkawi, as you can see from the map here, it has 3 conservation areas of Mat Cincang Cambrian, Kilim Karst, and Dayang Bunting Marble. These conservation areas are known as Johor Forest Park, where the Johor Forest Park is not only to protect the biological, the geological, as well as to promote sustainable livelihoods, as well as local community participation in managing natural resources, and also to diversify their livelihoods in a sustainable manner. Kubang Badak is situated very near to one of these Johor Forest Park of Mat Cincang Cambrian, and it is in the northwest coast of Langkawi, typically a wetland dominated by low-lying estuary of Sungai Kubang Badak. It is a wetland area of 1,000 hectares, of which 419 hectares comprise of Kubang Badak Forest Reserve. There are 3 main villages in this area, namely Kampung Kubang Badak, Kampung Kelubi, and Kampung Ewa, consisting around 1,000 people. In this map here, it shows where Kubang Badak is, and is situated, as I mentioned to you, in Mat Cincang, Cambrian Johor Forest Park, number 9 there, out of the 15th identified areas where the forest reserve are situated in Langkawi. And Kubang Badak is known as the 3rd largest mangrove forest in Langkawi. So what is this Kubang Badak Biojo Trail all about? It is a strategic partnership between LADA, Langkawi Development Authority, together with Langkawi Research Centre, Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, and the Fishermen Cooperative of Sungai Kubang Badak, where they have around 118 members, where 30 of them are full-time fishermen. And this strategic partnership began in 2015 to produce a new geotourism or a knowledge-based tourism product in order to achieve maximum satisfaction among the tourists in a niche area. And also, importantly, to inculcate the idea of conservation and management of natural resources in a sustainable way among local community and visitors. This trail is not for conservation per se, but ultimately strives to pursue its potential to generate local economy of the people there who are primarily involved in fishing, agriculture, hospitality, and service sector. Also serves as an opportunity to be a window to revive back their cultural heritage, the knowledge of the local community and tradition that are slowly diminishing due to the rapid tourism development. And this is also a potential to showcase integrated heritage conservation at work. This is an exploratory case study of sustainability in action, mainly because although the major threats to the ecological integrity of the systems in Kubang Badak are relatively low, but the unrestrained tourism development, the expansion of limestone quarrying and cement production are seen as the potential threats. Thus, the emphasis of this BioGeo Trail, the naming of this, is on the basis of its unique interdependence between human and the natural environment in Kubang Badak, especially in the permanent forest reserve area, where it is significantly also located near to the oldest rock formation of Malaysia, where Machinchan Cambrian 550 million years old. So the question is, how do local knowledge and shared values among local communities and other stakeholders assist in this conservation process? There are many lessons that we have learned from this exploratory case study. I'd like to share with you a few here. The first one would be on the involvement of local communities in identifying the natural and the cultural sites. As seen in this figure here, there are 12 sites. And the community shared with us that this place of Kubang Badak, where we grew up and cari makan, make a living, we know these places from our elders. So there are 5 interrelated stages of project cycles to identify these 12 sites: the need assessment, the conceptual design and feasibility, the action planning, implementation and operation, as well as the maintenance, all done together with the fishermen, the local community, the local researchers, and also the local authorities. The second one is on promoting behavior, intention, and inclusivity, especially at the first 3 stages of the process. And various discussion, workshop, and field trips were done together with the local communities, government agency, and as well as with the researchers to frame this BioGeo trail together. And it started from 2015 right to 2019. The importance of this stage is actually to minimize the challenges that may be encountered at the later stages, especially at the implementation, the operation, and the maintenance, where at times the local community may feel that they have been left out. So these first 3 stages of the need assessment, of the designing and the planning are very crucial to minimize this potential of the feeling being left out. And I'd like to give you an example out of the 12 sites, this one particular site of the sandbar, given the limited time of Beting Pasir, or locally known as Bohok, where the fishermen introduced us to this area of the sandbar area, which is significant in terms of its biodiversity. It is a habitat, a sanctuary, a nursery for many marine organisms. But the community, the fishermen, they know this by heart because this is their playing ground, where they say, we catch many interesting fishes, shell here at the Bohok. So it is also significant, as you can see from the backdrop there, the landscape viewpoint overlooking different types of rock formation. So together with the local knowledge and the researchers from the geology, the biology, and the cultural come together to give significance and meaning to this site number 12. So the importance of the third lesson is on the bridging local knowledge and scientific finding, where it is crucial to ensure effective knowledge dissemination and sharing, where we have conducted workshops for script writing related to each of these sites with the local community. We have conducted workshop for local tour guides, and we developed modules together with them from the script so that they can narrate these 12 sites while they are doing their tour guiding, and also ultimately the production of this field guide booklet. As you can see, it was published in 2019. And the fourth lesson learned is on the building capacities and resources, where it shows that the level of commitment and the voluntary spirit expressed by the community to invest their personal resources, like their time and energy, to work together with researchers in order to come up with these 12 sites is very significant. And this concur to what Olsen 1971, she stated that leadership among local community emerged because they value the collective good, and they are willing to do so at their own personal expense. So what is the way forward here? More research is obviously needed to understand the socio-economic and social-cultural effect of the trade development, particularly in addressing poverty alleviation, and importance to appreciate the nature resource management as well as development, and the Kubang Badak Biogeo Trail serve as an early evidence and motivation to encourage greater public engagement together with experts, authorities, and relevant stakeholders in achieving sustainability. So thank you very much. I would like to make this acknowledgement to all of those who have made this exploratory case study happen. And also thank you to the organizers, MNS, University of Nottingham and UPM for the opportunity.
Hello everyone, we are back again. I hope everyone has enjoyed the presentation from Dr. Sharina. So our next speaker will be Encik Kamal Sohaimi Fazil, who is currently a lecturer at the Department of Anthropology and Sociology, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, University Malaya. His research has included topics which are empowering Malaysian indigenous minority youth through social media, sustainable governments in climate change and disaster management, and exploring the educational potential of comic books to communicate delicate fish bombing issues to coastal communities in Sabah, Malaysia. He has also published books, papers, and been active in advocacy via radio podcasts and interviews. So for Mr. Kamal, we'll move on to a pre-recorded video, yeah?
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. I would like to start my presentation by screening a short documentary which was produced sometime in 2015. Okay, let me share my screen now.
Ini kawasan Taman Negeri. Dia buat ke atas pun super, ke bawah pun super. Ini mau cari makan susah. Nak cari garu pun susah juga. Dia tahan garu. Cari ikan, dia tahan ikan.
Kita pun susah nak cari makan ni.
Yalah.
Dia orang ikan kelah, ikan apa, dia bagi tasik aja. Tapi dia bagi tasik pun ikan bawang, tengok ni.
Ada
nak cari bawang pun tak ada.
Tak ada.
Perut pun lapar.
Orang cakap salah, nak pergi nak tebang sana pun salah. Nak cari ikan salah, nak cari kayu salah. Apa nak cari makan.
Lauk berjasa lah, lauk asal ni berjasa. Tapi beras gula lah tu kami ingat tu.
Ya, susah sikit lah.
Kalau masa dulu kami meninggal beras gula tak apa, kami pindah rata.
Iyalah.
Sekarang lah ni dah kerajaan dia pendidik kami nak kerja makan lah.
Tapi dulu dia senang. Macam hari ni petang pergi sumpit jatuh 2 ekor. Tapi sekarang pergi pukul 6, balik pukul 11 tak ada apa. Dulu ikan kelab banyak. Tapi sekarang ikan habislah. Orang kata kegagalan, macam pelancongan masuk. Macam orang kentera masuk. Orang tak masuk dulu memang okey. Tapi orang dah semua masuk habis. Kalau orang mau guna, pihak pelancong jumpa orang asli.
Sekarang ni bila pelancong masuk,
Tak ada pun. Orang tengok macam seorang ni burung puyuh. Kat seberang sana dia tak singgah, sini dia tak singgah. Semacam dia lalu saja.
lalu saja. Dia tak minta kebenaran nak masuk ke.
Tak ada. Tak malu apa.
MK tak datang.
MK pun lalu juga.
Aduh.
Taman Negeri pun lalu juga. Jadi kawasan ni susah mau cari makan. Tengok ni. Tanaman pun tak ada. Tanaman ni orang kuat tak boleh.
Tanam ubi pun orang kuat banyak.
Ayo.
Ni
Sampai sini
tok
ya?
ni.
Sampai sini.
Ni dekat ni.
Ha.
Tu dia jalan hari tu.
Belakang sini saja. Oh, yang macam tu ada juga. So,
Tak apalah dia macam tu.
tu
Babi tak apa.
Yang orang kuat yang takut.
Orang kuat lah takut tu. Orang budak-budak lari.
Ya. Oh, dia kacau sampai ke rumah.
Ke rumah dia masuk.
Budak-budak
Rumah
takut.
papan pun dia koyak tarik habis.
Oh.
Tu rumah papan atas tu.
Ya.
Dulu tak ada.
Tak ada.
Ha.
Sekarang dah masuk.
Sekarang ni dia masuk dah.
Bawah.
Iyalah yang bawa. Menantang yang macam ni pun dia bawa juga. Saya tengok kaju sana pun sudah kosong dah. Aduh,
Dia lepas sini ya?
Dia lepas sini. Dia buat seksa orang asli.
Dah banyak.
Masuk dalam, orang hantar dalam. Macam mana nak tanam kebun?
Iyalah.
Jadi keasilan kepada luar macam kentang pada dalam ni kami nak jual dekat dalam. Orang kata semua ada lesen, ada apa. Tu saya boleh fikir kan. Saya boleh fikir kehidupan kami orang asli lagu mana. Jadi sekarang macam dia Taman Negeri, dia tahan sana, tahan sini. Kami harap dekat Taman Negeri. Dia nak perbantuan dekat kami pula lah.
Tapi mana hutan ni dia cakap tak boleh ambil sana sini tak boleh ambil.
Jadi macam mana?
Tapi bantuan dia lama. Kami nak tu kalau dia cakap tak boleh. Ini benda-benda hutan ni. Tiap minggu sekali dia nak bantuan kami. Seminggu sekali dia nak datang, seminggu sekali dia nak datang. Tak boleh tahun, tak boleh.
Yang masih dulu asal di sini dia belum dapat lagi ni datang apa dia punya ni Taman Negeri. Orang asli lah dulu sini. Dia tiba-tiba baru dia dapat ini kawasan saya lah. Tak boleh jangan tebang situ, tak boleh jangan cari sini. Jadi macam kepantang larang, orang kata kepantang larang dalam kawasan ni bukan hak orang. Asal usul orang asli dekat mana? Kami punya asal di sini walaupun tumpah darah dekat kami dekat sini, walaupun kami kecil besar di sini. Tapi dia mengelak kepada tu, dia kata asal usul dia. Dia kata ni tempat saya. Ni orang kata lubuk saya, rantau saya, batu saya, itu saya heran. Saya boleh pelik. Serupa tu batin juga lah. Ini dia nak halau orang asli lah ni. Dia cakap betul lah tu.
Itulah.
Dia tahan kawasan. Ini orang asli ni tapi orang baik. Tapi orang asli ni baik. Kalau dia tahan orang kalau orang mau musuh ni orang main
Kita jam bagi.
tapi bertenang. Bertenang. Kira kita nak halau ni bukan senang-senang, orang asli ni terus sampai Kuala Lumpur pun boleh. Orang lewat aksen, kami minta aksen. Nak aksen dengan sama. Orang kata baru kita punya kepala kan okey sama okey. Ni aksen orang luar, kami dekat dalam tak aksen buat apa. Bukan kami buat bodoh. Ni nak cerdik sama, nak bodoh sama.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. The point is to offer an opportunity to listen to the members of the Jahai community living within the state park speaking about their anxiety and aspirations of having to live within a protected area. Okay, let me just share my slides now. All right, so the title of my paper is Engaging Orang Asli as Partners in Conservation. In this paper, I hope to argue for participation. I hope to argue that participation should be founded on recognition of the Orang Asli as indigenous peoples, following the principles expressed in the UN DRIP, which includes recognition of them as owners of their customary land. Social justice for the Orang Asli participation in protected area management cannot be predicated solely on conservation needs. Rather, their rights to natural resources needs to be recognized as well. I hope to explore the possibility of devolution of natural resource management of parks and other protected areas as an option in ensuring the integrity of these areas. Such a sharp paradigmatic shift can only be considered during times of crisis. In this case, engaging with indigenous actors in natural resource management to enhance our strength to more effectively neutralize the risk caused by porous borders and the presence of foreign poachers. The outcome is that this leads to us to genuine respect and recognition of indigenous knowledge, as well as for claims to customary land rights by indigenous communities. Orang Asli is a legal category defined under the Orang Asli Act 134/1954. There are about 178,197 Orang Asli, or less than 1% of the national population. The Orang Asli is made up of 19 sub-ethnic groups. They are heterogeneous group varying in culture, religion, languages spoken, population size, distribution, political and social organization, as well as economic practices. Broadly, they are the Senoi, Proto-Malay, and Negrito. Land status is often a source of conflict. Customary land for the Orang Asli includes not only the land they inhabit, where they build their domicile, their orchards, but also extends to the wider landscape where Orang Asli groups associated to the landscape hunt and gather resources. Land is also a source of spirituality. Customary land is bounded and exclusive to the group. Compounding the problem of land, Aziz et al. 2013 observes that other legislations serves to add further to the livelihood challenges faced by the Orang Asli. The study was conducted in the Royal Belum as well as extending to the Temenggor, where majority of the population are Jahai. However, there are also some Temia communities here. The map shows the distribution of villages. And the points are some of the points raised in an interview done with communities from the Royal Belum about what the problems that they face in the park. Okay, but this is maybe I'll just read this out. So as well as this was also articulated in the documentary. What do the Orang Asli want? They want recognition as indigenous peoples. They want a sustainable livelihood, opportunity in their customary area. They want their environment protected. They want to be consulted on matters that relate to their customary territory, and perhaps more importantly, they want their claims for customary land recognized. In the Royal Belum State Park Management Plan, there is recognition of Orang Asli as being the customary occupants in the area. The current General Manager, Shahreza, has also spoken about incorporating Orang Asli living in the Royal Belum in the management of the park in the future. He sees actions today as part of developing capacity for future partnership. One of his initiatives is the creation of an all Orang Asli anti-poaching unit called MNRA. The question is on how to integrate them into conservation. Shah works with one village where he gets most of his participants for MNRA and sees this as a success, and quite rightly so, a success story in community-based conservation. Of course, my question moving forward, sustainability is on sustainability, which depends on how far it gets institutionalized, and of course funding, how funding remains viable, if funding remains viable. But MNRA fundamentally offers employment to villagers and financial incentives to the participating village. I borrowed this idea of devolution from Shiona Shackleton in 2002. Devolution is the transfer of power or authority over decision-making and benefits in natural resource management from a central authority to local actors. She lists down 5 barriers in the devolution of authority, but I'll just read her suggestions on how to improve participation. First is by having the right literacy to make informed decisions. Second, to ensure there is organizational capacity and accountability. Third, to have a mechanism to address conflict. How do we ensure broader access to participation? So moving from MNRA, a volunteer initiative funded by private sector, can Orang Asli living within or near parks or protected areas work in a specialized enforcement unit within Perhentian and the Perak State Parks? Is there a model we can use to look into this, which includes addressing possible challenges from government human resource requirements for employment? One such is the creation of the Senoi Pra, and would indicate that this is possible. The Senoi Pra is a police unit which was initiated in the 1950s in collaboration with the Department of Orang Asli, and it employs Orang Asli within that unit. A more recent case study probably is from Perhentian and the Elephant Program. But of course, beyond actual like enforcement programs or activities, there are broader structural reforms that will make co-management of protected areas a reality. One is recognizing that most of the areas which are rich in biodiversity are also where Orang Asli call as their customary area. Two, legislate recognition of Orang Asli customary land rights. And three, developing a state Orang Asli Adat Council consisting of Orang Asli representatives and headed by an Orang Asli elected from among the state Orang Asli communities. Fourth, develop a sustainable partnership blueprint for community conservation area. So what can the CCA look like? CCA must be based on the principles of recognition of Orang Asli ownership of customary areas. Orang Asli participation in CCA must include the executive and strategic role in decision-making and planning for conservation of protected areas within the customary area. CCA must also provide employment for local Orang Asli. Leadership of CCA should also be by the local Orang Asli. I'm just going to skip this slide. So the paper argues that for Orang orang asli to participate in conservation, it requires recognition of orang asli as indigenous peoples. And this recognition should include recognition of their claims to customary land. It argues for a devolution of power in park management to incorporate orang asli through such mechanisms as the CCA. The paper also recognizes the effort of Shah in the Royal Balloon State Park as important, particularly the creation of Menra, and it hopes that this will move beyond and be part of a plan to develop a CCA. This is also a tribute to the orang asli men who served in the Senoi Prague and to increase recognition of their contribution towards orang asli development as well as to nation building. Okay, thank you. There are a few people, of course, I have to acknowledge here, but this is very much an idea and a work in progress. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. So we had very interesting outreach of this presentation by Mr. Kamal. He definitely got our interest by having that short video clip at the front, so where we actually get to hear the orang asli tell us their opinions about what is happening to their environment and also to their society. So I know it's interesting, but please hold on to your questions until towards the end of our session. So for our next presenter is Associate Professor Dr. Zaleha Kasim, who is currently the head of the International Institute for Halal Research and Training at the International Islamic University Malaysia Kuantan campus. Her expertise are biodiversity and fishery science, namely taxonomy and ecological study of marine invertebrates and biology and culture of invertebrates as live feeds. She has published in a variety of journals, while her research projects have also included enhancement of sustainable ecotourism program through community participation in mangrove forest conservation activities in Hong Kong and Selat Mendana, Johor. So, Associate Professor Dr. Zaleha, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chong, as the chairperson today. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. So my topic will be on Kongkong Mangrove Forest, Masai Johor community participation in the forest conservation. This is a joint paper with the main author, Prof. Ahmad Ismail. I'm the co-author, and Najia is our graduate intern during this project. As an introduction, this map shows the mangrove extent in Kongkong Masai. Actually, the mangrove area is quite large. For example, here it covers all in the Pulau Juling. This is a very virgin forest in Pulau Juling. And then, because of the importance of the mangrove, actually in 2019, we proposed to Department of Forestry Johor to gazette some area for educational purposes. Because if we refer to Amin et al. To 2020, this mangrove forest, which can be known as Rhizophora bruguera dominated coastal forest, consists of many species other than the mangrove species itself. But as usual, same as in other area in Malaysia, mangrove forest in Kongkong also threatened by many human activities, including ecotourism, aquaculture, and other activities. And you may be surprised if you come here. You can see ship docking and maintenance area at the Mendana Strait. The ship come from the Pengerang area, and they come here to get cheaper maintenance service from the local. Our problem statement. Of course, we researchers believe that mangrove forests can be saved by the local themselves and without support or endorsement from external agencies, as mentioned by Walters in 2004. But firstly, we need to check or to know how do the community or the local community responds towards this effort. So we need to check on study the values that they have or sense of responsibility of a community towards their ecosystem. Then only we can empower them to protect the mangrove. Because as Chan et al. Mentioned in 2016, community can be varied in their perception towards environment, be it intrinsic or instrumental or varying aspect of relational values. So that is why in our project, we started with talking to the local communities. We did a lot of focus group discussion and meetings to understand their perception or to see their behavior towards our proposed conservation project. And this became the objective of this paper, to investigate the community's willingness to participate in the conservation effort despite their socio-economic dependence. Of course, socio-economically, they are depending on the resources from the mangrove. So are they willing to participate to conserve the mangrove while they are also dependent on the mangrove? Our respondent, we select respondent from the Persatuan Penduduk Selat Medana Kongkong, because this is one of the local society that been very active in conserving or protecting the mangrove area, especially from the environmental degradation due to other human activities such as boating and fishing. So in our survey instrument, we have 36 items to get the data on the respondent background, and also if they have possession on commercial property that been used to exploit the mangrove resources, and their dependence on the mangrove resources, and also their participation in mangrove forest conservation. So we established hypothesis that and later we analyzed it. And our result was based on the 79 respondents from the Persatuan Penduduk Selat Medana Kongkong. These are the background of the respondents. Most are male, and their academic attainment is in the secondary education, and they are still working, most of them, with the income between 1,000 to 3,000 ringgit per month. And in the house, they have with them normally 1 or up to 5 other persons, and they have a good supply of treated water at home. And the duration, mostly they have less than 10 years been in Kongkong. So in terms of possession of commercial property among locals in Kongkong, we found 60.8% of the respondents, they have commercial property such as building or transportation, boat, and so on, to be used to exploit resources in the mangrove area. And in terms of their dependence on mangrove resource, 56.9% of respondents depended on mangrove resource for socio-economic reasons such as fishing and other activities, including tourism. When we talk about perceived participation in mangrove forest conservation, none of the respondents have showed highly negative or highly positive. But we can see there are 33 respondents with low negative or negative but slightly positive towards this participation effort. And 46 have low positive or positive but slightly negative attitude towards this participation in mangrove conservation. So more or less, they want to participate. When we test the hypothesis, we found that there was a significant difference in the mangrove forest reserve resource dependence scores between Kong Kong locals with commercial property and Kong Kong locals without commercial property. There is a significant difference, but there was no significant difference in the perceived participation in mangrove forest conservation between them. And there was also a negligible correlation between the respondent score of mangrove conservation resource dependence and perceived participation in mangrove conservation. These are examples of commercial properties owned by the local in Kong Kong, fishing boat, fishing facilities, and also the jetties, and of course the business area where they have their restaurant, and also fish cage, and also a raft for the fish cage. So they are actively doing aquaculture activities at the same time, and that is why we can say that they are really dependent on the mangrove resources to support their life. So, but from the analysis, we can say that possession of commercial property is not a contributing factor that influence the respondents' perceived participation in mangrove conservation. So this indicated that the representative Kong Kong community have a significantly similar tendency to participate in the mangrove forest effort. This is based on their attitude towards the mangrove forest, perceived importance of mangrove forest, and willingness to participate in mangrove forest, mangrove conservation activities, whether they are dependent on mangrove or whether they have the commercial property or not. So Chan et al. 2016 gave explanation on these issues as it is an act of conservation that driven by values is very important. It seems like in Kong Kong, they have values on mangrove forests. Why? Because they said, oh, by participating in the conservation activities, it can restore and preserve the mangrove, and at the same time, this will boost the resources available in the mangrove, and it will help them to improve their income. This is an example of their participation in our activities during the project. As a conclusion, we can say that locals of Kong Kong significantly different in having assets that will utilize the resources in mangroves, but they are willing to participate in the conservation activities. So this is because of the attitude that restoration will boost the resources and support income generation. Where they have this attitude, this could be due to they have been nurtured, or they know, or they have the relational value towards their mangrove. And we can say that local community should be first nurtured. We need to nurture them with relational values prior to carrying responsibilities and making effort to coexist with environment they are sharing space with. So we need to put extra effort first. Of course, conservation science can be delivered by academics like us, while wildlife management and conservation strategies and practices will only be effective when the local community possess some values relating to all manners of relationship between people and nature. Perhaps there should be alternatives introduced to this coastal coastal resource dependent. Meaning to say, we need to give them alternative, or else they will forever depends on the natural resources in the mangrove, and we don't know how far this can be sustained. So maybe in long term, we need to have alternative for them. This project was done through the knowledge transfer program in 2017, funded by the Ministry of Higher Education. With that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Zaleha, for the talk on the mangroves of Hong Kong. So right now we have come to the end of our speaker slot. And right now I see that there's a lot of questions coming in for all our speakers. So hope everyone is on standby to take the questions. So speakers, please make sure you're on standby. I think to make things a little bit more interesting, we will pick the questions, but we will not go by speaker. So will that be okay with everyone? Otherwise, then it's like everyone will have to wait their turn. So Encik Hafiz has already taken one question just now. So let's go to other question. I see there's question for Miss Akila. Miss Akila, if you refer to the chat box, there's one question for you. This comes from Sean. Plastic pollution is an international issue. What are our neighbors doing to tackle plastic pollution and decline in quokka population in their countries?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yeah, plastic pollution is the international issue. So because of this scenario have been occur in the Sungai Buloh, I think the best way to prevent this worst scenario by having the education to increase the local awareness about the environment. Please inform the local, do not throw the trash into the river. That is the key point, because the location is the location of Sungai Buloh is around. I think the trash is come from the locals, so we need to increase their awareness about that. And the second one, there's two. I can say the two things here. The second one is about to reduce the decline of cockle in Sungai Buloh. I think for your information, in 2008, actually Malaysian Fisheries Department has doing the project kebun kerang in that area. However, they still cannot, the number of quokka here still decline. I think it's all about the nature phenomena that has been occurred there. But we can reduce this situation by protect the ecosystem, by preventing the effluent or any pollutant that has been come from the factories of industry in the area. And also, such as mentioned before about the plastic, please do not throw the plastic to the environment, to the river, because it also can affect the structure of muddy structure of the cultivation area itself. Okay, that's all my answer. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Dr. Chang, that's my answer for the question.
Oh, right. Thank you. Sorry, I just realized I was actually on mute. So thank you very much, Ms. Akila. So for Mr. Kamal, there's a question for you. So this is regarding to Shah's Reza collaboration with the local communities in forest government. Do you think other forest management units in Malaysia will actually emulate or take him for an example? So, or is it already ongoing for the time being?
Okay, so I can only focusing mostly on in the peninsular Malaysia. I think Shah is the only one where, as a state park authority, he's the only one I think who's worked with the orang asli towards getting them to slowly get involved first in poaching and eventually, hopefully, in governance. But in Sabah, yes, you have other examples. Back to the question, will other forest management units take this up? I hope so. I think that's where the conversation needs to go beyond just conservation activity, but actually expand into recognition of rights. I think if there is a law which recognizes orang asli as customary landowners, then you will have a better take-up in terms of collaboration.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kama. I think I have a few questions on that, but never mind. We'll cover that later on. So for Dr. Sharina, there's a question for you on our chat box. So this is from Wong Pui Mei. So has a system been set up to channel tour guiding opportunities to the local community? How would such opportunities be spread among those who have been trained?
Thank you, Dr. Chong, for this opportunity, and also to the question by Pui Wong. So in Langkawi, they have this association where they call themselves as the Langkawi Tour Guides Association. So this is how they actually have the mentor and mentee system, where they, in the case of Kubang Badak, there is a very well-experienced tour guides already there, like Mr. Othman, Puan Rohayu, Mr. Irshad. So this is the system where they empower the local communities who are interested to become tour guides, and they will be coaching them under this mentor and mentee system. But of course, to be a licensed tour guide, it's quite quite challenging also, because they have to go through a very structured process. But nevertheless, there is an uptake on that, especially among the younger generation, because of the sense of awareness and their belongingness to the area, and the love for nature. So that's I guess their motivation in order to do that. And I think in terms of the opportunities, those who have been trained, once they are in the Langkawi Tour Guides Association as a member, they are either the green badge or the blue badge. So if they get either of these badges, the green or blue, or maybe both, they can already do their guiding anywhere on the island as well. And I think if they want to go to other area, then they need to conduct another process. But the Langkawi Tour Guides Association is already an opportunity for them to practice this guiding. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Sharina. We're going to go back to our first speaker. Mr. Hafiz, you still have one question up here from Elinia Nanum. So she's asking regarding why does the Orang Asli say that deforestation is the cause of the declining of the pangolin and not because of hunting?
Okay. First, we need to understand the concept of deforestation. When we talk about deforestation, that means everything will be destroyed. Okay? In terms of habitat or flora and fauna. So, the diet of the pangolin is ants and termites. So, termites need trees as their food source. So, if there is no trees, so there is no food source for the termites, and the termites will decline or maybe extinct on the site. So, this will make the pangolin need to go far away from their burrows to find food source. And in barren land, it is easy. The pangolin become an easy target for the poachers to catch them. Okay, that is first. Second is based on my experience during my master study, because I study on pangolin ecology. So actually it is not easy to find the pangolins in the forest. Okay, for orang asli themselves, they need 10 years of training to hone their skill to become an expert, okay, in poaching the pangolin. So during my weeks or 2 weeks finding the pangolins with the orang asli, maybe we can get only one, or maybe we can return empty-handed. So it is not easy task. And second one, if we find the pangolin, it is not easy to catch them if the pangolin hiding in the borders. Between the borders, there is a crevice, or in the burrows. It is not easy task to obtain the pangolin. Okay, maybe they need more than 7 hours to catch even one pangolin in the burrows or in the crevice. So that's why if deforestation become one of the major, or why the orang asli said that it is one of the major factor to the declining of the pangolin population in Malaysia.
Okay, that clarifies a few things. So, Mr. Hafiz, there's one more question from
Mr. Kamal.
Okay, he's asking regarding the income between the two villages that you survey. How much is the FECRA dividend, and how much could one individual in the non-FECRA earn per month?
Okay, 3 questions. Okay, for the first question, yes, there is a difference in terms of income between Kampung Sungai Berwa and Kampung Sungai Pergam. Okay, for Kampung Sungai Berwa, the income range from Malaysia ringgit 3 to Malaysia ringgit 40 plus per day. Okay, not per month, per day. Okay, for Kampung Sungai Pergam, the range is around Malaysia ringgit 6 to Malaysia ringgit 120 plus. Okay, that's first question. Second, FELCRA dividend. Oh, okay, for FELCRA dividend at Kampung Sungai Pergam is Malaysia ringgit 1,100 per month. Okay, and for the third question, for non-FELCRA income at Kampung Sungai Berwa, the range is from Malaysia ringgit 3 to Malaysia ringgit 40 plus. Like I said before, there is no FELCRA there. Second one, at Kampung Sungai Pergam, Kampung Sungai Pergam, Malaysia ringgit 6 to Malaysia ringgit 40 plus also. So there is no difference for income for non-FELCRA. I hope that answer your question, Mr. Kamal.
All right, I'm going through the questions. I think we covered most of the questions coming in the through the chat box. So for the speakers themselves, do you have any questions that you may want to ask the other speakers? Some which we have not managed to cover yet.
I want to ask Mr. Kamal.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how can we define the orang asli customary territory?
Okay, so you have to, so I've got friends who ask me these questions, and of course, orang asli is a heterogeneous group, but they're not homogeneous. Okay, depends on the group that you're working with. The best way is to actually sit down with your friends in the village and get them to draw a kind of mental map, right, of their landscape. They will be able to locate their area by the geographical physical attributes in the land, either rivers, mountains, rocks, Okay, and this within their boundaries, there will be places that are significant. So first thing you look out for is settlements. You look out for graves. You look out for sacred sites. Often taboo sites. They don't go to their sacred sites. Keramat, lari, go the other way. Okay, it's dangerous. There will be resource sites as well, and they will be their ladang-ladang, and there will be stories in this landscape that they tie to their ancestors. Okay, but like I said, this is not all over. It depends on the group. So it's often best to sit down with the community you're working with and ask them. There have been a lot of resettlements over the last 50 years or so. So many may not be even in their customary area because they were resettled. But they have a customary area and they might be going back to this customary area because the resettlements have not achieved its aspired targets. So they've moved back. So yeah. I hope that answers your question. So you have to sit down with your community, your friends, and ask them. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kamal. So any more questions from the speakers? If not, I have a few questions that I would like to ask. No questions. All right. So I would like to ask Ms. Akila, how do we actually protect and maintain the function of the Sungai Buloh estuary as a cockle cultivation area and migratory shorebird area? Because as you know, when we talk about these cockles, this kerang bulu berdarah kan, I think that's the right term. Like the one that you have with your, the char kway teow with the siham, correct or not? It's getting very expensive. It's getting very rare. Like people, for me, well, it's very hard to get hold of it. So it probably has to do with pollution and also all these estuaries. So I think right now this is a big question mark of how we prevent, and to ensure that we have this steady supply of cockles, and also migratory birds. As we know, we are learning more and more about how important they are, being a part of the ecosystem that we always don't really see, the mangroves. So how do we actually protect and maintain them?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chong, for the question. As I mentioned for the suggestion in this study, we need the strong collaboration between the authorities and also the local people here, and include the researcher. Because by having the strong collaboration, for example, for the government or for the authority, there has the enforcement to have the inspection to the factories or industry that can release the effluent into the environment. And for the locals, we need to stress here that we have to educational program in this area to increase the awareness. Do not throw the plastic waste or any other trash into the ecosystem. Because as I mentioned in my presentation, due to this anthropogenic and also the pig waste that has been occurred in this area, they decline the production of cockle, or in Malay we call it as kerang, and also they can decline the microbenthos in this area, which is the microbenthos itself is very important for birds that has been migratory in the mangrove area. So by having the strong collaboration between the authorities and also the local, I think that is the best way to prevent the worst scenario of this situation. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Akila. So yeah, we do need to look at a stronger collaboration between all the relevant agencies and parties. Okay, my next question comes for Associate Professor Dr. Zaleha. So after hearing your talk, I believe the forest in Kong Kong is not fully gazetted as a forest reserve yet. Okay, so may I know why is it not fully gazetted yet?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Chong, for the question. They are actually gazetted. First, of course, we also, like you, we thought that this area is not a gazetted area, not a mangrove reserve. But then when we have meeting with Department of Forestry in Johor Bahru, we brought along this Persatuan Penduduk Selat Medana Kongkong, because they are actually that wanted to so much to see the department, because they submitted a proposal to protect that area few years back, but nothing happened. So when they have collaboration with us, they have asked us to help them to arrange a meeting with the department. And the director himself stressed that yes, this is a mangrove reserve, but of course, sometimes we can change the status. It will be depending on the request from local authorities or from local communities themselves. So because of certain interests in terms of development, they change the status, some part of it. But if you go there, because Kongkong River is only next to the Kim Kim River, this Kongkong area, the mangrove area, most of the area now become a settlement. Also for orang asli, and also for aquaculture activities. The permit, they got the permit from the forestry department itself. So we cannot say anything, because it seems like, of course, they have their development agenda to follow or to fulfill. Yeah, that is my answer.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaliha. So I have, in the chat box, there's some questions as well. So for Dr. Shabina, there's one question for you. Do we have any community conservation area in Langkawi? That's the first one. And then the second one, what is your opinion about youth involvement in ensuring succession planning in managing resources and conserving heritage in a sustainable manner?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chong. I think the first question that is asked by Mr. Kamal, thank you for the question on the CCA. No, in Langkawi, we don't have CCA because most of the conservation areas in Langkawi is actually in a permanent forest reserve area. So because of this UNESCO Global Geopark, all the 3 conservation areas are in the permanent forest reserve areas, and we put it in such a way because of the flexible the management approach of a geopark. So in a geopark, we don't have another governance, or we don't have another legal mechanism or regulation. So we ride on the existing legal mechanism of conservation or protection of the forest. But having said that, that's the importance of making sure that the success of the conservation efforts is through co-management. So that's why Kubang Bada is one of the examples on the island. But of course, we have another one in Kilim, where the community, together with the local authorities and researchers, work together to ensure the area is being conserved. They can. So this is, I would say, one of the successful way or approach of managing the resources as well as promoting conservation and heritage at the same time. But for Dr. Chong, the question on youth for succession planning, I think is very important, because in the case of Kubang Bada, where, like in the 12 sites that I shared with you, right? All of those places were identified by the local community. And then the researchers, the scientists go down there and do more extensive work to give more meaning and to provide more of the information for the local community as to why we need to protect this or why we need to conserve this. So when we were identifying the 12 sites, we saw the importance of having the youth together with the elders. So the elders were like narrating, like, oh, why we call this Bohok. So they were saying, this is how we call the local name. And then so it's important for the youth to have this handover by the elders, not just on the place names, but also in some of the activities that are being carried out by the local elders. May not be, you would think that the younger generation would know this, but not necessarily, because they are no longer doing it. They are mostly in the tourism, like hospitality and service sector. But in the light of this recent pandemic, we see, I would say, a big number of young people going back to do the primary activities, to go back to do agriculture, to go back to the sea, to do fishing, even though their father and their grandfather are fishermen, but not necessarily they would be a good fishermen. So they are going back to their roots. So it's an interesting thing that to create, not only to pass down the knowledge from the elders to the younger generation, but also to make sure that they have an alternative livelihood. This pandemic is both a challenge, but also a blessing, because it's also a way of telling the community that over-reliance on one sector could be quite dangerous, because you are not resilient. So in light of all this happening, I think the community in Langkawi is making a very good initiative back to understand back their roots in a way. So that's my answer, Dr. Chong. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sharina. I will agree with you about the youth, and also this COVID is probably a blessing to some communities as well, because we have been doing some work in Tioman. We noticed that the villagers there and those like the kids that initially went out to find work outside of Tioman, they wanted to come back and they were planning to do more things in their own island as well. So we noticed there's a trend of going back to their roots for the time being.
Yes.
All right. Okay, Dr. Zaliha, there's one question from Mr. Kamal. So do we have community conservation island in Hong Kong?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Kamal. As far as I know, during our activities down there, we don't hear about this at all. We don't know. That's I can be sure. But the local people, they are so concerned about the mangrove in their area. That is why this Persatuan Penduduk Selat Mendana Kongkong is very active in terms of, try to getting people to work together with them. Because, even though it is a small village, but then because of the different political, belief, so most of our activities, we find it very hard to implement successfully because of different school of thought, different all these political issues between 2017 to 2018. So I think it will be good if we can have people with the political will to conserve mangrove, to promote conservation, and they need to understand that we conserve mangrove, but that doesn't necessarily meaning that you cannot do anything in the mangrove area. So I hope one day we can have this CCA in that area, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zaliha. We have a question for Mr. Kamal. So this is in our chat box from Lilia Nanu. So based on your interview with the Jahai Orang Asli, it seems that there's HAC, I assume there's human-elephant conflict in their village. Is there any program, etc., to help them with that?
So at the moment, I can't say with certainty. I think the best is, of course, to ask Shahreza on this question. But yeah, in the past there used to be that human-elephant conflict. So sorry, I can't answer that question for now.
I think we could probably refer to Perletan and also to Meme, the management of Malaysian elephant.
That's right. Actually, Shahreza would be the best because he does have very close relationships with the communities there, and he would address these things.
Yeah, probably we have to email him on that one. All right. So, Mr. Kamal, because based on your work, regarding this Orang Asli thingy, we know that land is very sensitive. It is actually more of a state matter. So, what is it about with all these Orang Asli claims? Is there a way to resolve them peacefully? Because we see them right now coming in and out of courts, you know?
Yeah, I think there's the court cases that they often win the court cases, like in the case of Peter and much earlier you had the Sagong Tasi, right? So they do win the court cases. I think it's about time the government looked into ways to recognize this. So we don't have to go far. The Commonwealth, Australia, Canada, we have models that we can look at. New Zealand, but it needs political will. Every time this issue crops up, the federal will blame the state as land is a state matter, but that's not a solution. I think there is a need for political will. And this actually would also translate into the other sides that we spoke about, Langkawi or Kong Kong, where community living in environment in areas that you want to conserve should have more than just a participation. They should also have recognition, so that their ability to engage is much more comprehensive, from identifying, planning to implementation. Yeah. So our problem now is political will.
All right. We are at 3:46 right now. We have about another few more minutes before we end at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to try to settle some of the questions that I've already received earlier. So Miss Akila, this question is for you. How do you actually identify and monitor the release of pollutants into the Sungai Buloh estuary?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chong, for the question. Basically, we can identify the chemical pollutant that released in the river by, firstly, we need to identify the anthropogenic activities that has been conducted in the area. For example, the industry may release high pollutants such as heavy metal, and also, for example, fisheries and shipping activities. Because for your information, Sungai Buloh is located near to the port of Klang port. So they has potential to release much pollutants such as biocide, Igaro 105 by Duron. From that activities, we can get the chemical that released in the area. So we can detect the presence of those chemicals by having the biomonitory agent, for example, filter feeders such as quagga itself, and also sediment, because they has high potential to accumulate in long term in that biomonitory agent. So by having the biomonitory agent, we can know the content of the chemical pollutant in the ecosystem. Okay, that's all.
All right, thank you very much, Akila. There's one question from Belinda Wong. This is regarding the mangrove planting program from Petronas. So she's asking, is there any update on this?
Yes. Actually, previously we were together in this project, but later once we finish our KTP, I don't really, make the follow-up, but then according to the pengerusi of this Persatuan Penduduk Selat Medanang Kongkong, they are still continuing the project and they engage with this Persatuan Nelayan Kecil in that area. So I guess they are still doing it because the previously they target to plant more than thousands of seeds over there. So it should be continuous. But as you know, we are now in COVID pandemic, so I'm not sure whether they continue because of this EMCO and so on. And that Masai is, it's a very dangerous area in terms of COVID.
Yeah, and I think I noted one thing. Usually for mangrove replanting, we have a low rate of success, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so actually we need more studies to be done on that, because otherwise it's like money pouring down the drain, replanting
Exactly.
over again. I'm sure those who have worked with all this this coastal ecosystem, they will understand this, yeah? So this question is more general, yeah, but I think it is also quite specific to some of the communities, yeah. So for Dr. Sharina, so how does this pandemic affects the community participation in resource management?
Yeah, it is a challenge, Dr. Chong, I think, especially in Langkawi. But I feel that because a lot of the resource management activity is also related to the tourism activities. So now, in light of that, resource management activity is done without associating it with a lot of tourist activities due to our situation. However, according to the local communities, for example, in Kubang Badak and also in Kilim, because Kilim is also another mangrove area where they are also doing similar work. This is an opportunity for them to do cleaning up, to do restoration work, because a lot of these sites, they have like walkboards, they have panels and all these things, for the information panels and whatnot. So this is to do all that work now that they are not so busy with tourist activities. But Dr. Chua, I have to agree with you on that point of replanting mangroves. In Langkawi also, it seems like to be a popular CSR activity. Everybody, okay, what you want to do for environment? Let's do mangrove replanting. But actually, they never consider what Dr. Chong is saying. You need to study first whether it's appropriate or not. For example, in Kuala Triang, where that area was affected by tsunami, as you recall, in 2004, right? So after that tsunami, I think about a year or 2 years after that, all the private companies want to replant mangrove in that area, saying that it could create the barrier. But they didn't understand the coastal ecosystem of the suitability. So, and at the end, there's a lot of I would say unsuccessful mangrove plantation over that area. So in terms of resource management, I think community needs to work together also with the local researchers who are doing work there, so that whatever the activity that they are doing is in a way synergistic, and they are not wasting resources and time and also energy when they are managing the resources. So that's from me, Dr. Chong.
Okay, we still have about 7 minutes before it's 4 p.m. Yeah. So I think for me right now as the chairperson, I think I've come to a very clear conclusion. Yeah, when we are dealing with so-called the local communities and also all this resource management, traditional ways and all, we definitely need to incorporate their participation in all the things that we have done. Okay, and also from what I see is that not one solution will fit every community. Yeah, you definitely have to work with the local communities to see what they have in mind, you know, and also how we're going to work with them, yeah. Because otherwise, I think this kind of programs is not going to be long lasting with them. It's just going to be what you call as, chop fudge, or either you call hangat ayam lah. You come in, do a little bit, and then after that, you go off. All right. So once you go off, the local committees also bye-bye. I forgot about you, and that's it. So I think we really need to have something that is more long-standing, long-term with the local communities. From what I see from, this is a very general conclusion, I get from everyone, all your projects and so forth. So this is hopefully something that the authorities will take into note. And of course, financially, we need to be quite stable as well to be doing all these activities so that the local communities are well supported as well. Okay, I see Vanessa is already up. So I think my time is up, and so is everybody's time. All right, so with that, before Vanessa does a wrap up, so I would like to say thank you very much to everyone. Please forgive my mistakes or whatever disturbance you hear over the background. So thank you very much for all the presenters. I'm sure today everybody has learned quite a lot regarding our local authorities, our local Orang Asli work, our local participation in mangroves, island work, and so forth. All right, I hand it over to Vanessa right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chong. You were amazing. Don't worry about it. You know, once again, big thank you to all our speakers as well and the audience for joining in. I have to say this session was really, really varied. I mean, from pangolins to mangroves to ecotourism to plastic pollution to poaching. Yes, and I agree with Dr. Chong. So I guess in summary, we all hope for the authorities and local communities to come together to protect and care more for their land and space. That concludes this session, but please don't go away. Do join us again at 5 p.m. as we will be touching on the topic of governance and biodiversity conservation. So I'm going to see you soon at 5 p.m. Take care, everybody.